Shalom, shalom, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Rooted in the Word. For those of you who've been keeping up with me, thank you. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. So today I'm going to talk about Ephesians 6. I really want to talk about this because it was an odd occurrence. On Shabbat morning, when I got up, this Bible verse popped into my head, and I realized actually that it had been resonating for a good bit of the night. I'm not sure if I was asleep, but subconsciously something is ringing in there. This doesn't happen often, but it was happening, and I'm not sure why. But maybe now, after pondering on it and referencing a couple of scriptures that relate to it, you might come to see why that is together with me as I talk about it. So it is Ephesians 6, 1, 2, and 3. And it is the Bible verse that talks about, "Children, obey your parents as unto the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother," because this is the first commandment with a promise. And then it says to honor your father and mother, that things may go well for you and that you may have a long life. Now, this is not a Bible verse that I frequent, especially as an adult, because it is committed to memory. We grew up with it. When I was growing up, I do remember this being taught to us, and I always associated it with discipline. If in your mind you have different compartments that you place things in, this specific verse I placed in the compartment of discipline. And maybe because I'm not a child under direct headship of a parent now, I don't necessarily frequent it like that. But a couple of things came to light when I was pondering over it, or rather I should say when it came to mind on Shabbat and I was reciting it almost. And I woke up thinking, why that verse? And then clear as day, I remember in my head thinking, wow, who is our father? The first father, as far as hierarchy is concerned, is Abba Yahweh. And then the chain of command follows. And so if it says, "Children, obey your parent," who is our first parent? It's the Father Yahweh. And so when that little light bulb came to my mind, all these other scripture verses just started popping in, which one that I had associated with it right away, and this is the only two scriptures that I'm really gonna touch base on because they tie together, is the one in Matthew when the disciples ask, "Rabbi, what is the greatest law?" They ask that to Yeshua, and Yeshua tells them that is to love your God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your soul, and then to love your fellow man, your neighbor, as you love yourself. Now, that Bible verse in regards to loving your father and mother, how I related to that in regards to loving Yahweh with all our heart, with all our being really, is that is a direct quotation from Deuteronomy 6. And Deuteronomy 6, as some of you may know, is the great Shema that a lot of people recite, especially in the Judaism walk, because it's hear and obey. And it says that to love Yahweh with all your heart, with all your soul. And it's like these statutes that they are given, and they are to listen to them. And once they listen to all of the instructions, they're supposed to hear and obey. And so what are they hearing and obeying? They're hearing and obeying Yahweh's instructions. And when the Bible verse says, "Children, obey your father and mother," what are we obeying? It's our father and mother's instructions. And in like manner, we're to obey Abba Yahweh's instructions and laws in like manner. And so it's funny because all my life, this has never really dawned on me. And I know a lot of you probably knew this, and I'm just slow to the game. But once I connected those two, I was like, oh my word, it was right on my face the whole time. And this whole thing about obedience, that's what we're called to do in regards to the law. Now, obviously, I did know about obedience to the law and all this and that, but I never tied it to this specific "children, obey your parents." And it says that it's the only commandment with a promise. And it's crazy that I always associated this promise to be so horizontal, meaning earthly relations, when that vertical relation is even much more weightier as far as the promise that your days here on earth may be well with you, that they may be prolonged. So I thought I'd share that. But as I was getting my thoughts together in regards to sharing, this is side note for those of you who care. As I was getting my notes together, I had two things in my heart. I had this Bible verse, and I've been preparing a little breakdown of tips and ways to study scripture. Something changed in my life last year. Around November, I want to say, it's like there was a shift in my brain, and all of a sudden, all these hyperlinks in scripture started making sense. And when I say this, I mean to say, if you've grown up in the Word, being taught the Word, raised up with the Word, sometimes you can get so familiar and routine that you hear a verse and you recall it. You're like, I know that. But it's a different case when it comes alive, and it comes alive in a way that it brings new meaning, new teaching, and it instructs you in a different way that it's sure as day, it's as though scripture is talking to you. And so since I've been on that journey since last year, I thought, you know what? Let me journal it. Let me compile my notes. And I had been journaling and compiling different notes here and there, not for this specific reason, but I'm finding that maybe sharing that may be beneficial to someone who might want to have tips in which to study the Bible. So in my next video, in order to make this one a little short, I will break down ways in which to study the Bible if that's interesting to you. I should also mention that when I was getting ready with this Ephesians 6 message, I have been struggling in my heart with, I'm trying to learn the ins and outs of making YouTube videos, and I'm trying to make it not just visually presentable to you, but also that the material flows. But I don't want to be caught up in the vanity of it. And so I was really wrestling with, am I doing this out of a pursuit for something that is selfish within me? Am I doing this because I do want to share the word? I'm excited to share the gospel. I'm excited that people who tune in can take something home that blesses them. But I'm also really wary and hyper aware of the fine line that I'm walking between tap on the shoulder, you're doing so good, Esther, and you're doing this and you're doing that. Because what I have come to really be super sensitive to is my biggest downfall, at least in my walk of faith, false humility. I don't want to have false humility when people say, oh, that message was so good and it blessed me. And then in here, I feel, yes, that's what I was hoping for. But then outwardly, oh, I was just the vessel that was used by praise. Those two things don't go hand in hand. And so when I self-evaluate myself, I keep having this continuous prayer of, Father, help me die to myself, that I don't seek the vanity of chasing the honor that is supposed to be directed to you, or the glory that's supposed to be directed to you. And so yes, if you love the videos, I am glad that you love the videos, and I am glad that they are blessing someone. But pray for me so that the proper placement of where the glory and honor goes, it goes to the right person and not to me. Lastly, if I do share anything that is contrary to the word, please feel free to reach out to me in the comments, bring it to my attention that I may learn, do it in love, and we can grow on this journey together. All right, Shalom.